So, like I've told you guys so many times before, for the new guys, we have so many people come speak to us. We have so many people who reach out to me and say, "Can I come to your school?" I hardly have to go find people anymore. It's awesome. We already have another assembly scheduled in October. We have another one scheduled in December. A lot of people who have been seeing what we do at the school and they want to come and share their stories with you guys. So this one is close to me because this is my friend Jon Lewis. As you guys can tell, he's like absolutely freaking jacked and ripped. He is a personal trainer. Jon and I have known each other for over 30 years. His little brother, Will, was my best friend from grades 3 to 9. We fell apart a little bit after that, but we were always stayed friends. I got very close to his family. And Jon has a story he wants to tell you guys. He came about, was it 5 years ago? 4 years ago? 5 years ago? Yeah, for the first time and spoke to the kids back then. And he's reflected on his experiences so much more. And every time I go down to St. George, he and I go hike. We go hit hikes, we go do something, we hang out. And the friendship has lasted a long, long time. But he asked me, he said, "Hey, can I come talk to your kids again? I've really perfected my story. I feel like I'm a lot more clear now. And I want to tell them like everything that I've done, and I want to tell them that they can succeed. Because I did it, they can do it. And it's a really good journey. So everyone, please give it up for Jon."
Hi guys, my name is Jonathan Lewis. I chose recovery back in 11/26/20. So yes, last time I came in here, I had 18 months clean, and yeah, the journey just continued. So last time I shared, I didn't really get into any depth about how I got this way or how I, just basically the tale of my life. And so I wanted the opportunity just to come and share it again, hoping that at least one or two pieces of it hit home, give you guys some more hope and strength and really surviving hard things. So I was born in Provo, Utah. I'm 43 years old. I was born with two other siblings, a mom and a dad. And when I was born, I was actually born chemically dependent. I came into this world addicted to alcohol, cocaine, weed, and opiates. But then, as you know, so I was born to a mother that suffered from addiction and mental illness, and a father who was an alcoholic. And so, really, to begin this, I'll go with my first memory of my life. Literally, was cutting my thumb on a razor blade that was used on a mirror for drugs when I was really little. My second memory is running and hiding in a house with my mother because her alcoholic father was chasing her and he was trying to beat us. And so circumstances weren't ideal. I lived a lot of my life in denial that things were the way they were. I lived a life of denial and stayed optimistic and resilient somehow, just tried to have the best attitude I could. However, life just kept happening. Um, one of the ideas in my life that really hit hard with me was Walt Disney. Where you watch this movie, you see him go through tragic events, tragic things, push, fight, do whatever they do, save the girl, however, but it always ends up happily ever after. And so I ran that tale in my life for decades until I had to face reality because, it's not that life doesn't get better, and it's not life doesn't become what you make it or what you choose it to be. But life's life. Life's difficult. Situations arise. We're all challenged day in and day out. There's no arriving on any end of healing, any end of recovery. Um, but with the right attitude and with setting ourselves up and getting to know ourselves, I believe that we can make it and we can make the best out of it and hopefully flip our circumstances around to do something good here. Um, so as I grew up, I'll talk mostly about my mother. But she really suffered with addiction. She'd lead me places, homes, trap homes, or like I don't know if I consider them trap homes. I wouldn't know the difference because I was so young. But like different mobile homes, different things with scarier people, people that would stay up all night in their house would drink a cigarette smoke. And then as life goes on, I start to realize, especially in my recovery, I start to realize what I was actually put into, what I was in the middle of. In my childhood, in my developmental years, ages 2 to 7, I suffered every type of abuse, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, all of it. I I was about 4 years old when my parents decided to up and leave Provo, go to Lake Tahoe, which to me seemed like a dream, but the nightmare of mental illness and addiction and alcoholism continued. It wasn't until I was about 5 years old. One day I just woke up. I woke up and it was like I knew things. I don't understand it. Maybe my soul, my body, my mind had enough of what was going on and said, "Hey, we got to grow up." But when I was 5 years old, I woke up one morning, went downstairs, poured a bowl of cereal, poured the milk in it, ate it, rinsed my dishes out, put everything away, and got my brother. And I didn't realize that's an anomaly because I got kids and I've seen kids. They don't do that. And it's not because I'm special. It's because the adversity I was facing in my life forced me to grow up early. And so with my siblings, we're really close in age. We're only about 16 months apart. So I had a little brother named William who was really good friends with Steve, and I had a little sister named Jessica. And as we grew up, and ever since that day I woke up, I took it upon myself to show them the way. When my mom wouldn't wake up to get us ready for school or even feed us, I was getting my brother and sister up. We chased down the bus. We're only like 6 and 7. We're chasing down a bus down public roads, trying to catch it to school, stuff like that. But either way, as life went on, my mother and father ended up getting divorced, where my mother and sister stayed in Lake Tahoe, and my dad brought my brother and I to Utah. And in that time, I got a little bit of a different taste of life. I got to see what it was like to have my father step up in my life and, take us to do some stuff. Everything actually was getting good. And then I don't know what it is about me. I'm really intuitive as just a person. But for about a week, my parents were split for about a year and a half. And within this week, I kept waking up thinking I was going to wake up to see my mother and my sister in the house. And so every day for about 4 or 5 days, I'd check. And one day I walk in and they're there. And I thought, yes, this is going to be the best thing ever. My family's saved. We're going to be able to be happy again. Well, I was wrong. Because there's being sick in and of ourselves, and then there's collaboratively coming back to two sick people. So in that time, my mother, so I was probably 6, and through 6 to 10 years old, my parents are partying. My mother was doing hardcore drugs, and the abuse continued. And then when we were about 9, my mother decided, hey, it's a good idea for you guys to try alcohol. I had no real reason not to do it, and I honestly didn't, but my little brother did. I watched my little brother take his first shot of vodka when he was 9 years old, and something inside me said, I don't want to. I don't know. I can't really explain it because I shouldn't know that much when I'm that little, but I just knew that that was a bad idea. And then time continues to go on, and when I was younger, I was really sick. I'd always get bronchitis and pneumonia like 4 to 6 times a year, at least. But then, as you know, I just vividly remember going to the doctor's offices with my mother, and she always had the specific thing she would say in my behalf. And I didn't realize it till later, even in my recovery. And I'm 43, so I got into recovery when I was 38. But I realized my mother was keeping me sick to use the drugs that the doctor was supposed to give me. And so, coming back, and the reason why I share this story is I'm starting to realize, and that denial is wearing off, and the shame of being me, of being me in that family was wearing off. Because that hit hard for me, because when I woke up when I was 5, and ever since up until like my late 20s, early 30s, it was on me to get my brother and sister out of this one, right? So that happened when we were young, when I was like 10. And then my mom, one day we're out in the woods and she pulls out some zigzags. She's like, I want to teach you guys how to roll a joint. I was 12. Life continued to go on. And then it wasn't until I was about 17. I actually, so when I was 16, I was only 5'1". I was the littlest guy in high school. I think a lot of that emotional stuff was really affecting my body, and I just wasn't growing. But to any regard, when I was about 17, OxyContin hit like the streets, we'll say, but it hit the world, and my mom was instantly hooked. And in being hooked to OxyContin, I don't know if misery loves company, or if she just wanted to advantageously try to get the drugs that she was trying to get my brother and sister on, but she did. Um, my little sister was 13 when my mom took her to the doctor for endometriosis and they put her on OxyContin. My little brother was 15 for neck pain. Again, something in me said, I don't dare do that. I got to make sure these guys get out of the abuse and out of the trauma we were put through. So I kept striving. Um, Growing up, I was a really good athlete, but it wasn't until about 17 years old when I decided to quit sports. And I put it on my parents. It didn't feel that good to be really good at sports and have these other people in the community's parents show up, and mine would always say, "Yeah, we're coming," and then the stands became a distraction. Instead of watching and playing in the game, I was always looking in the stands, like, "Are you coming? Are you coming?" Because I don't know, I wasn't really trying to impress anyone. I just really just was always trying to earn the love of my parents and to feel that love inside of me. But then when I was 16, I got my first gym membership. I started working out. I didn't know anything. I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger and I used to admire. So when I was little, I used to really love superheroes. Wolverine was my favorite. Um, and then my love for superheroes grew, I saw that my dad had some bodybuilding magazines, and I was like, "What? Those guys are huge! Like, I want to be like them. They're the modern day superhero, you know." So I got my first gym pass when I was 16, and I started going to the gym. And the crazy thing was is that ever since I started going to the gym, I could sleep at night. What I found out later was anxiety, because I'd had panic attacks growing up when I was really young too. But what I later found was anxiety and depression was being cured for me and being lessened by the gym. And so my number one go-to in my recovery in my life has been fitness. A lot of people look at me and they think, wow, like that guy's got to have a hell of an ego, or he's got to be super vain. And I'm not going to say I don't like the way I look, but ultimately it was never about that. All this muscle was teaching me to survive. When we grow up, we strive to be the parents we always needed. And when I was little, this is the parent I guess I deemed I needed. I need someone to fully protect me, to hold my hand, to really walk me through life. But to any regard, I took fitness as a hobby in the beginning. I got really powerful. I've been about this size since I was about 21. I really didn't get much bigger. But then it took me into a world that I wanted to get even deeper to, which is personal training. So when I was 20 years old, I got my first job as a personal trainer in Gold's Gym in Orem. I started this journey that seemed to be so intriguing. I thought that if you find a passion that fits and a purpose that fits so much, that work will never be work. And that's true. But it was about that same time when the first major tragedy happened in my life. And it was when I was 21 that my mother OD'd. The night before her death, her, my brother, and sister were playing Yahtzee, doing speedballs like cocaine and heroin. And I was off doing my own thing because the last thing I wanted to do is be anywhere near that. Because when my brother and sister and my whole family is addicted to OxyContin, I felt like I didn't want to be a part of it, but more importantly, like I just saw it taking them down. So my mother died. On her death certificate, it said cocaine, and I had to go. I had the experience I walked through an experience where they pulled the plug on her, and that was life altering. I'd never seen that in my life before. I've had multiple friends dying of overdose, but never did I watch someone I loved pass away right in front of me. It was then when I started I started using cannabis or marijuana. Um, and I actually got addicted to it. I used marijuana like a drug. Um, I had I had to do something, and I couldn't run from it all. I had no way to cope. There wasn't the therapy. There wasn't EMDR. There wasn't these different facets that we have today to recover. And so I started running with weed. And I had a couple interventions with my friends, got my head back on straight. And as soon as I did, I started to take off again. I got hired and promoted in personal training to be a GM, a fitness manager. It was a sales position. My first 2 weeks, I sucked. I really did. I didn't do much. I mean, my goal was like 15,000. I did like 6 grand. And then I took a suggestion. It was the first time in my life I took a suggestion. And my boss is like, read this book and apply everything he says. Well, after I read that book, I really figured out how to sell, how to inspire people, how to motivate people, how to really do my job. I broke records in every gym I was in after that. My career took me all across the country. I opened up gyms in New England, like Boston or Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire. I came back. I came back to Utah actually. So you know what's really crazy is in the middle of this, I get burned out and I quit these good jobs and I quit my fitness passion. I'm like, no, like I always made up these fantasies of what was happening. But what I found out in the healing and going through different therapies and understanding myself is that trauma can burn you out. If we don't deal with our feelings on the inside, it'll burn you out to a degree that your life will become unmanageable. And so that happened down the East Coast. I came back, got my head on straight a couple months later. This is without drugs. Got back into Gold's Gym. I ran all of Southern Utah. I was running 17 gyms for personal training. I then took an opportunity to go to California with some good mentors and friends of mine. We opened up all of East Bay. Basically, there was 108 locations that they opened. I was just on the journey with them doing it, but it felt really good to be on a team of powerful, successful, forward-moving friends and men and women. And then it was in California when I chose to make a decision. I had a girlfriend at the time, and had a long distance relationship, and I had realized that I could stay in California and have money, or I can chase family and love. And so it was then when I quit that job out in California and I went to Texas. I got hired to open up 5 gyms in Lubbock, Texas. Everything was going good. I was building. I went in and I just blew their personal training program out of the water. I had signed a year contract. Well, while I'd been gone, both my brother, sister, and father were still struggling. The last time I actually physically talked to my little brother was when I was in Texas. And he's like, John, I'm like, what, dude? He's like, don't get mad. I'm like, what? He's like, I hawked your bike. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what'd you hawk my bike for? Because he had DUIs. He's going through the whole system. And he's like, but I'm going to get it back. It was only for a couple $100. Well, it was a couple days after talking to him that same intuitive voice came to me and said, no, you got to get home to your brother. So I quit my job that day. It was like a week after I'd served my contract. And the day I quit, I was taking a day off just to relax. I was going to pack up my stuff and leave the following day. Well, that next morning I woke up and one of my buddies calls me. He's like, John, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm fine. I'm coming back home. What's up? He's all, you don't know? I'm all, no. He's all, your brother's dead. Sorry, you get emotional up here talking about real things, but either way, I was like, whoa, that's like good entry, you know, like you hit me with like something a little softer next time, like sit me down or anything. But I called his best friend. His name was Jake. Um, He didn't answer. He ended up calling me back. He's like, yeah, your brother OD'd last night. Looked like he died on his, like in prayer, like folded over. So I packed up my stuff the next day. I moved back to Utah. Um, and it was my brother's death that was like the breaking point for a guy like me. Like before that exact moment, one of the sayings I used to love was, I don't ask for a lighter burden, but for broader shoulders. Like I can handle it. Like I'm a man. Like look at me. Like I'm a beast. But when my little brother died, um, I didn't feel too beastie. I didn't feel too manly. Um, because in life, when things would happen, when tragedies happened, when my mom died, all the different things that came together, the way that I held denial so close to me was that, no, little brother, like we're going to keep going. I'll show you how to live. I'll show you how to make life worthwhile. And, uh, and then he passed away, and it just like completely wrecked me. Um, I drove back to Utah. I tried to grieve. It wasn't really possible with all the stuff, all the unhealed events and challenges that I had faced up until that point, I could shoulder. But when he died, it cracked me. And when it cracked me, I didn't know what to do. It wasn't for like, death's kind of weird. It seems like a bad dream in the beginning. But when it hit, I remember I was ideating taking my own life in a cemetery 3 nights in a row. I was up all night listening to the same song, sitting in the same cemetery he was in. And it was actually in that moment that I thought I was at my rope. I was at the end of my rope. Um, it was in that moment that I actually made the decision to become an addict. I knew that the drugs that I had found in the meantime were numbing the pain, but I didn't know how to live anymore. So I was at complete despair. I just had too much. So the drug of my choice was opiates. Um, I started using those. It helped heal the pain temporarily until it didn't. Years went by. I got married on December 25th, 2012. I had triplet daughters enter this world. I kind of got into that denial. I got in that space where I was just going to try to keep pushing through and just kind of like leave everything on the back burner and hope for the best. But then it was about a year and a half into my daughters being alive that my brother and all that, and really my brother, really crumbled me to where now I'm hooked on drugs. I got all that pain, and every morning, I don't know if you all have been dope sick or not before, but you wake up in a groundhog day every morning. You feel like you got the worst flu, all the above, but what I really woke up to was hell, and it was an emotional hell. It was all that pain from life, my brother, my mother, all the different things hitting me every morning. And so I did my best. I raised my daughters to the best of my ability. Um, can you hear me? Oh God, that's way better. Excuse me. But yeah, you're good. Um, but yeah, so for the next 7 years, I tried different ventures. When I had kids, I thought, man, I don't know how to do triplets. I need to be an entrepreneur. But being an addict, they all fell through. I owned a hormone therapy clinic. I was the head guy of I was a master distributor of a multi-level marketing company. I owned my own personal training. I got given rights in certain gyms that don't allow rights to be an independent trainer, but everything failed because I wasn't willing to do the work and I kept running. So right before I got clean, so that was back in 2020, right before Thanksgiving, my marriage failed. We became toxic. It didn't work. I'd gone into trouble with the law. I got 3 DUIs in a year. The last DUI, I had a gun on me. They gave me a gun charge. And I was back to my apartment looking in the mirror again. And that look in the mirror was saying, "Hey, are we really going to live this life, or what's going on? Because we're at our rope's end again. You can't run forever." And so I was in that moment. I actually got down on my knees and prayed. And I said, "Hey, I can't do this. Like, I feel like I lost too much. Things are too heavy. I feel like I got nothing." And this little same voice, that intuitive, that we can some call God. I mean, I'm not here to define your beliefs, but that same voice came through and said, "Give it one try." No, actually, what it said, "You either do recovery or I'm going to take you." And what that mean to me is I'm going to make some stupid decisions and overuse and end up dying and ODing, or I can try recovery. So it's from that moment I called a buddy, um, got a plan set to go into treatment, and on Thanksgiving Day I checked myself in, said goodbye to my kids, went to steps, went detox down in Payson, and then they sent me down to St. George, and that's when my recovery began. So I know there are some of you in recovery. I don't know if everyone is or not, but recovery is a trip all the way through. Um, it really is. I, yeah. Um, so let's talk about getting off drugs initially. Uh, I don't know if it was because I was on so much or what happened, but I withdrawed. Okay, so I withdrawed for 70 days. I didn't sleep for the first 30. To me, the worst part about withdrawing was the restless leg syndrome, but I got it in my arms. So my arms were like geeking out at night and I can't control it. Um, it's not comfortable. But thank God being in a facility, because it was in that facility that at least I was relating with other people's misery just like my own. You know, checking in like, "How was your night? Did you sleep?" "No, I had the shits all night," or whatever, right? But but then but then I got out. I got out of that treatment center, and I had the option to move back up north, where I have all my associations, all the trauma, all the people that are involved in that whole story, all that pain are associated up north. But the biggest catch for me was that my children were up north. And I'm like, dang, like, I know I shouldn't go back to this. I know wholeheartedly I should not go back to this, but I got 3 little beautiful angels up there. And I wasn't the addict that neglected them. I tucked them into bed every night. I just I had a problem. But in that challenging decision, I chose to stay in St. George. The main reason I stayed in St. George is because I didn't have, is because losing my mother, I knew if I went up north, I was dead. It's not enough time to recover. I knew it was going to take a while. It wasn't going to be this quick. I got 90, 180 days. I got 6 months. None of that was going to do it. It was going to take some work. So I had to restart my whole life over down in St. George, where I started working as like a server at a restaurant. And keep in mind, like, I got an ego and I thought like I was worth this. And I had to start back over just like anyone else. And it was humbling. It was super humbling. But in that process, I was out of my mind. I suffered a couple head injuries. I don't know if any of you guys ever longboarded downhill before, but if you wreck, it hurts. And I hit my head a couple of times. That shook me up, something that like was hard to pull together. So in my recovery, I got clean. I had the associations down south that were safe. You know, we went to meetings every day. I did 90 meetings in 70 days. I went all the way in because I wanted to change. I wanted to break the cycle really, right? And so in that, I didn't know what to do. I mean, starting over, yeah, anyone, you know, maybe other people think it's easy, but for me, I didn't know how to start over. I went to sober living. I was getting drug tested every week there. and I was working a job, but I didn't know how to build my life. I didn't know I didn't have a license for the first 3 years of my recovery. Last time I was here, he drove me. And so, um, but the one thing I will say that the biggest asset for me is I know my dailies. My daily was the gym. I didn't know how it was going to help me make money again. Yeah, I'm a trainer, but I mean, I already had that knowledge up here. But I know for certain me getting healthy, feeling good about myself, and getting that energy out was a good thing. So for the next 1,279 days, I didn't miss a gym day. I worked out every day for about 3.5 years. In that time, I went to multiple therapists, I went to meetings every day for the first 2 years. Um, I did NA, and I will say that the power for me in NA was the associations of the meetings. It was the collaborative whole. It was the, if I'm down and I can't handle my mind, my soul, my emotions, that I could go in a room and people aren't going to judge a big muscly dude balling. But they held my hand, they brought me up, they gave me the love I couldn't give myself, and it worked. And then as time goes, I get my license back. I continue to heal, continue my dailies. Today I own a successful personal training business. I do energy work and healing for others. I get the opportunity to actually give back to women. So in my personal training program, about 70% of my clientele is female. And the primary reason they come see me is because I'm a safe space. And if you guys could understand how much disdain I went out into St. George with for women, for my mother, mostly where all that's derived from, and to see what I'm doing today is a full 180. And so here's what I know. What I know is I judged myself heavily upon the life I was given, on the fact that I was broken, thinking that it made me weaker. It didn't. It's like any movie you guys watch. Rocky wasn't a badass because Rocky went up there and just started socking people, laying people out. Rocky was a badass because he went in there, got beat up by the Russian, went to town on some logs and running up mountains to come back. The glory was in the rebirth of him. The glory is in the getting back up. The strength that comes from us, and especially in society, is owning your life, honestly, taking accountability, but never giving up and keep moving forward. And the most honorable men I know today, they might look beastly, but they're the most kind men ever. It's not gangster to be hard to other people. It's not gangster to be a thug. There's nothing hard about it. What's really, really gangster is choosing a life, is being born into something awful, taking those cards and making a mansion out of them, and then coming out and being sweet and kind. Today I have the life I didn't think I'd have. I have a beautiful relationship. I have a great relationship with my daughters. All the relationships in my life I mended. I got over the death of my brother 15 years later. And when that happened, it happened in a therapy session. When that happened, it was like a light bulb clicked. And I remembered who I was before he died. Because technically what happened is I died the day he did. And it took me 15 years to fight back. So with that, guys, I'm open to questions, I believe. I am. But yeah, thank you for your time. Keep hope, and on the dark days, don't give up. Someone will show up for you. No, not this time. So before I came to Steps, I thought that if I just got the drugs out of my system, so I went to a detox in BMed. And I sat there trying to learn how to do wheelies on wheelchairs for 7 days detoxing. Right when I got out, I relapsed. Next time I tried to do recovery, I went to a facility actually in Spanish Fork Canyon. I got 28 days. I thought I was cured. I AMA'd, to get out to think that I could do treatment better than those people. My ego was fully flared. I got out. I made some arrangements to go out to Texas because I have like some family that I met out there. They're not my real family, but they sure as hell act like it. But they said that they'd watch me for 3 weeks and allow me to recover longer. But what I ended up doing is I self-sabotaged. I hooked up before I got on the plane. I got faded. I was faded at the airport. I got there. And then from then, I guess I hadn't hit despair hard enough. I hadn't found that bankrupt side of myself deep enough to really want to change. Because change is way harder than we think. You got to want it. You got to earn it. Muscle's easier than recovering off of drugs. But yeah, this time, no. This time we solid. I just stick to my dailies. If I wake up, like I get cravings sometimes for sure. Usually, I will say this, those of us in recovery, that suggestion of not having a relationship in the first year is the best idea ever. I'll tell you what, it's not because relationships with the opposite sex are wrong, but if you were to actually fall deeply in love in that first year, the reflection of that relationship will pull up all your crap again, a deeper version of the unhealed things. And so I'd recommend not having a relationship in the first year, maybe even 2. And yeah, and if I ever got real upside down, the best way for me to get outside of myself was go help someone else. I want to be Wolverine. I still do. No, really. So I actually been a judge for a bodybuilding show. Never was a bodybuilder. When I was 26, I was at the point like I was bigger than this, but like I was about maxed out, and I'm like, hey, well, those guys on stage are not natural. Are you gonna do steroids? And honestly, it just wasn't my thing. I just thought, nah, I don't really do this for that. Like I'm kind of more of a wild type. Like I like extreme sports. I'm actually addicted to the rush, adrenaline. I want to live. Like one thing I will say is when you're trapped in a box of any box, could be trauma, could be pain, could be grief, could be drugs, but our scope of vision, what we see, it's like we're horses, and we had the blinders on. We only see this one road. What I noticed in recovery and ever since I've been doing the healing is that vision, that one view expanded and it got bigger. So that like, I don't know, like I didn't even think I forgot a bunch of stuff about myself. But what I knew was that I had healthy habits. What I knew was I knew the right decisions to make and the wrong decisions to make. And this time around, I was just willing to do anything. But to answer your question, I did want to be a superhero. And then it was more about the unhealed trauma that made me want to protect myself and be masculine and be a big thing. Just like I did fighting. I trained fighting up until I was 30. I've done like multiple types of martial arts. But my little girls kind of botched that plan for me because then I had girls and I had this whole other side. Like, I don't know if whoever's parents or not, but I was the dude that didn't want to hold the baby because I thought I'd crush it or drop it. Like learning to be nurturing was it was completely crazy. Which one? Right. Good question. I stayed productive. So productivity is a form of running, though. So I could schedule my every moment of every day and keep myself away from drugs until the desire went away. I kept in the NA program and around addicts and recovery and in the space of healing until a lot of my desires and my pains went away. Because the drugs aren't the issue; it's the unhealed things that are the issue. But yeah. I was bankrupt. Like, honestly, like, and it wasn't a financial bankrupt, it was emotional, it was inside. Um, like that what drove me to do what I've done for the last 5 years was the fact that I stared myself in the mirror again. I got girls, I got a lot of ambitious goals, whatever, but I was at the depth of my hell. I was hooked on drugs. I was middlemaning to get enough to get me at least well. But yeah, it's despair. You than you. Wolverine. I wanted claws. I want to be able to heal. I want to not break. But yeah, he was my favorite. I do like Batman today though, because he's more practical. So we might go down that route. You in the back? Ooh, God in prayer in my recovery, or throughout my life. Either way, it's the same answer. Um, man, I could say I wouldn't be here without God. I would say it feels like God woke me up when I was 5 so that I could be the right example for my brother and sister. Um, I had quarrels with God when my mother died. It's the only time I resented him because I was like, no, this is effed up. It was too much, and I thought that you wouldn't do that to me if you were God, right? Um, but I believe in God. I believe in energy. Um, they say 98% of body language is like, or of language is body language. I say it's energy. I say we actually are connected way more than we give credit, and it's something that people don't talk about. Um, Today, I view my trials as a refining fire. Like I felt like, like being born into this world, I was a wild horse, and I needed to be broken to be able to be obedient and to be able to be the right asset or the right tool for Him. Um, and then with forgiveness, because forgiveness and God seem to go hand in hand. The outcomes of some of these relationships that were so bad, the outcome of me and my mother, looks like the way I view it is she was mentally ill. She was tormented by the life that she had. She didn't know better. She did her best. And what helps that, and for you young people that have parents and you haven't had kids yet, what really helped me was understand was I had my own daughters all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys were winging it. Like, are you kidding? Like, I always thought my parents knew something, but it was their first time too, right? And so it was just the processing time. Like I would spend a lot of time meditating. I did breath work. You're in recovery, or you have a hard time regulating your emotions. Look up Wim Hof. Get involved. Try to find you. Um, I believe all the answers are inside of us. You're welcome. Ooh, in recovery, that's a good question. Because growing up, it's Arnold. Arnold. um, you know, probably the current like C-bomb. Like I don't really like get into. Oh, there's a couple. I don't know if you guys know who Simone Panda is. He's this. He's just a freak. He's not as giant as like some of the really big bodybuilders, but I like this physique. He's just a really. He's got a crazy physique. Um, but yeah, uh, probably C-bomb and Simone Panda. I was waiting for this one. Um, so bench isn't so much functional anymore. I don't try to do as much as I did back in the day. But when I was 26, I could incline 540 for 4. And then I kind of hurt my shoulder doing that. And then when I repaired it again, I tried to see how many times I could do 405 because it's 4 plates on each side. And I could do it 15 times on incline and then right immediately after do it 12 times on flat. But I'm nowhere near there now. No, I'm older. I try to keep my body working. So like the goal for me in this body is to never have to say no. We're gonna go skydiving, I'm coming. We're gonna go run a Spartan race, I'm coming. My little daughters want to go do whatever, like guaranteed. We go to a Ninja Warrior place. They're like, Daddy, do it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 43, dude. But I could do it. You know, the thing about fitness and the way I sold it, I didn't sell it with any guilt and shame on someone like, how could you let yourself go or anything like that. I sold it on that beliefs and the understanding of life. Because here's the thing, I love my children, so I'm going to keep this healthiest and this most able so I can go live the most with them. I don't like limitations. I'm kind of rebellious. So I just want to be able to, like, especially in recovery, like as I started to do that, things started to click, right? Like it was never really, it was about the looks because I was single, but it was never really about the looks. It was about my ability. I don't want to, I can't be held, like I hated sitting in a bathtub withdrawing. I wanted to get out and like go live. Like there's so much to do in this world. Like, oh, that's cool. There's a great white shark on my cell phone. The monitor doesn't work for me. I want to go see it for myself. And so I don't know. It's just like a zest for life thing. Anyone else? Oh. What did you do to get your washboard abs? How do you know I got abs, bro? Here's the deal. You want to know a trick? It's not the easiest one. But, okay, so you remember like just recently, and maybe we know, maybe we don't, but in social media, there was this whole thing about one gorilla versus 100 men. Remember that? I think the gorilla would eat them all. You just rip them limb for limb, and whoever kept coming would get them. Either way. But what that got me to think and understand is like gorillas don't eat protein. Like maybe some grubs and some bugs, but they're eating like carbs, bananas, like they're eating fruit. And they're strong, right? So here's what I know. A part of our body is towards people that are in survival scenarios. They don't know they're doing it, but they're eating the whole fish, head, guts, and all. There's an animal part of us that we have to acknowledge. Like this, I took that equation. Eating's hard. Managing nutrition, cravings, all that stuff's really difficult. There's a way out of that, and it's consistency. Our DNA, the people that were like our ancestors are jacked. They're super healthy, but that's because like your DNA is composed of people that chopped wood all day, hauled water, plowed fields, fought wars, hand to hand, all these different things. So if you have a hard time getting in shape or you want to get a certain place, put it in daily, not destructively. We have workouts and we have active recovery, so you don't have to always break it down. By the same token, it's a sure way to get abs. That makes sense? If you have more questions, I'll give him some workout splits or something. I'll show you guys some stuff. Anyone else? I'm gonna get shunned. It's not the Chiefs. So technically speaking, so this season, who do I want to win? Detroit Lions. Hold on. But my favorite team is the New England Patriots. Yeah, I figured. I'd shame me too. But if you're as old as me, you liked him for a lot longer than Tom Brady. Did we have any questions over here? Did I miss one?